Did you know that February is Black History Month? Look what I've got for us to help us think about the amazing contributions of some Black American women. It's called Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History by Vashti Harrison.
Harrison's recorded the stories of over 40 incredible Black women, and I'm excited to share them with you.
You ready to take a look inside? Let's do it.
Let's start by reading the author's note.
It says, "To all the women whose stories are in this book, thank you for being leaders. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for being bold. We are grateful and we are inspired. To all the leaders yet to come, big or little, I cannot wait to hear your stories."
The first biography we're going to read is the story of Phillis Wheatley, who lived from 1753 to 1784.
And she was a poet. Phyllis's literary skills were apparent early on. She published her first story when she was only about 15 years old. Wow. For anyone, this would be a major feat, but Phillis was a slave. So, it was truly unique. Her original name, date of birth, and exact birthplace are all unknown. When she was only 8 years old, she was taken from her home in Africa and sold to a trader, then transported across the Atlantic to Boston, Massachusetts, aboard a ship named the Phillis. Just like her name. Interesting. She was then resold to a man named John Wheatley, who purchased her to be a personal servant to his wife. The Wheatleys soon recognized her intelligence and began to nurture it. They taught Phyllis everything from theology to mythology, an education that was rare for a woman and nearly unheard of for a woman of color. With the family's backing, she traveled to England to publish her first book, poems on various subjects, religious and moral. She was the first African-American woman poet ever to be published. She corresponded with George Washington and the famous French writer and philosopher Voltaire, who called her a master of English verse. Her work was so powerful that abolitionists used it as an example of the intelligence and promise of Black people. In 1767, she was emancipated. That means she was set free. Unfortunately, she struggled financially and lived in poverty for the rest of her life. That is very sad. She received a great deal of praise during her lifetime, but validation from white society was integral to her success, and it never came. So even though some very famous people took notice of her and knew that she was an amazing poet, it sounds like most white people in American society in her time did not pay attention to her. That's sad. She continued writing, but was not able to find a publisher in America. Her natural talent and body of work live on as fundamental contributions to American literature. That's the story of Phillis Wheatley. I suppose next we ought to take a look at some of her poems, don't you think? See what she had to say for herself.
In the following poem, Phillis Wheatley uses her experience as a slave and her talent as a poet to make a powerful case against the injustice and inhumanity of slavery. Even if the style is not what you are used to, and lots of the words are hard to understand, you can still learn a lot from this poem. Just listen to the rhyme and the rhythm, and think about these questions. Did Phyllis want to be taken away from her family? Did she like being a slave? Did she think slavery was right or very wrong?
To the Right Honorable William, Earl of Dartmouth, by Phillis Wheatley. Hail, happy day, when smiling like the morn, fair freedom rose New England to adorn. The northern clime beneath her genial ray, Dartmouth congratulates thy blissful sway. Elate with hope her race no longer mourns, each soul expands, each grateful bosom burns, while in thine hand with pleasure we behold the silken reins and freedom's charms unfold. Long lost to realms beneath the northern skies, she shines supreme, while hated faction dies. Soon as appeared the goddess long desired, sick at the view, she languished and expired. Thus from the splendors of the morning light, the owl in sadness seeks the caves of night. No more, America, in mournful strain of wrongs and grievance undressed complain. No longer shalt thou dread the iron chain, which wanton tyranny with lawless hand had made, and with it meant to enslave the land. Should you, my lord, while you peruse my song, wonder from whence my love of freedom sprung, whence flow these wishes for the common good, by feeling hearts alone best understood. I, young in life, by seeming cruel fate, was snatched from Afrique's fancied happy seat. What pangs excruciating must molest, what sorrows labor in my parents' breast. Steeled was that soul, and by no misery moved, that from a father seized his babe beloved. Such my case. And can I then put prey others may never feel tyrannic sway?
For favors past, great sir, our thanks are due, and thee we ask thy favors to renew, since in thy power, as in thy will before, to soothe the griefs which thou didst once deplore. May heavenly grace the sacred sanction give to all thy works, and thou forever live, not only on the wings of fleeting fame, though praise immortal crowns the patriot's name, but to conduct to heaven's refulgent fane. May fiery coursers sweep the ethereal plain, and bear thee upwards to that best abode, where, like the prophet, thou shalt find thy God.
What do you think that Wheatley is trying to say in her poem?
What do you have to say about slavery? What would you say in your own poem about slavery? Maybe it's time you took out the old quill and parchment and did some writing of your own.